deal with this question of our burden. They claim it's our burden to provide a perfect measure that solves the same problems they identify. First, this is not our burden. Our burden is to show that their mechanism is worse than status quo. Second, we've given you plenty of mechanisms, even if it was our burden, that do show progress. We've talked about state legislation, we've talked about private charities, helping the poor, we've talked about a vast range of measures which already work in status quo. So that's our burden answered. Now, 2 points of attention. 1, which side upholds the principles of democracy? 2, which side protects the basic rights of citizens? First, the principles of democracy. We told you on our side that you cannot lay claim to another person's property rights because those property rights are what we work for. Their response was such that first speaker gave a POI saying you benefited from a system that entrenches poverty in the poor. We asked them for proof of this because my property rights, my property was gained by me through my hard work and my labor. We don't see how this is related in any way, no thank you, to the oppression of the poor. But then the second response was you cannot that people are suffering in poverty, therefore you cannot simply vote away someone's right to eat. Our response is such, no thank you. If it's really true that every citizen has a fundamental duty to help every human being in need, why do they draw the boundary at states? Because their second speaker conceded he wouldn't make it a duty for us to give aid to other countries. Why? What's the moral distinction between my citizen and a citizen of another nation? There is no fundamental distinction. Their policy is insincere because they don't really believe in fundamental human dignity. They only believe in some contractual decision of rights between a state and a citizen. No thank you. And you know what? If they really believe in a contract between citizen and state, then that means that all our rights are generated by the majority. So if the majority doesn't believe that socio-economic rights should be enshrined, no thank you, how can they insist that the majority pay for these socio-economic rights? They can't, by their own principle, that the only moral duties that arise are between state and citizen. Next, they told us that political rights are also positive rights, so we've made a contradiction. No, my political rights don't take away another person's right. No thank you. Our first speaker already told you that when I speak, I don't prevent you from speaking. No thank you. But if you want to talk about things like the second speaker said, like prisons, we think this is very, very different. Things like prisons and the army benefit all of society. The kind of targeted welfare programs they want to enshrine as rights are targeted at a vast minority. No thank you. So the difference is, on our side, these political rights which represent the majority are consensual. We consented as the majority to have a private to have an army. No thank you, because that protects our interest as a majority. Our side has never made a contradiction. We stand for democratic principles. I'll take you in a moment. But if you think about it, what is this case really trying to say? Their cases are arguing essentially for a communist state because they're arguing that in any condition of inequality, one individual has a duty to give to another person who has less than him. That is essentially undermining all of the principles of democracy. We think that's a crazy model. Yes?
If you stand for democracy so much, do you stand for the majority being able to vote away the poorest, every socioeconomic right of the poor?
Sir, honestly, why would the majority do this? The majority isn't as cruel and evil to the minority as you think. I'll deal with that further later. But even if this was the case in the majority, we think in such a country that doesn't care about the poor, your policy won't work either because no one in that society would vote for these rights. No thank you. Second point of contention, which side protects the basic rights of citizens? And this is really simple because their only argument was there is dire need. We told you, no thank you, that these dire needs are going to be provided for anyway. There's clear political incentive on the parts of parties to appeal to these minority groups who tend to make up swing voting populations. For these reasons, the political will is present, but we're going to take it a step further. Their side detracts from this political will. Why? Because when you force an individual from the majority to give away his property, when you make it an obligation upon him, you take away his charitable contributions to the poor. You make him want even less to help the poor in all sorts of other ways. And that's when they damage, no thank you, social support for individuals. That's when they take away the political will of the majority. Finally, let's deal with this supposed claim that this dire need isn't going to be met because the majority is evil. If it's really true that the majority is evil, even if you enshrine it as a socio-economic right, there is nothing you can do to ensure that it really happens in real life. No thank you. That's why their policy can't work in those crazy states they talk about where the majority doesn't care for the minority. Which side protects the basic rights of citizens? That's us. No thank you. I'm moving now to my point of substantive about how their policy hinders social progress. In this substantive, I'll clash directly with his argument about private companies and corporations. My thesis is that the ambiguous definition of socio-economic rights allows extensive legal battles to be fought, disproportionately benefiting the rich and draining state resources. Yes, sir.
if this was the case, why have there been so many rulings in favor of individuals in South Africa as opposed to like large pharmaceutical corporations?
Because people really care about the minority. Therefore, your policy is completely superfluous, because without the enshrinement of these as rights, they would be enacted in policy anyway. Moving on, we think that fundamentally systemic problems exist with clearly defining socio-economic rights. And we're going to return to this argument which the second speaker brought to us. His response to our argument about the controversy is that courts can adapt. If courts can adapt, why not let the legislature do it, which is far more adaptable than the courts? Because fundamentally, the legislator allows us to use directly elected representatives to represent our democratic interests. No thank you. Which is lost when there's a judge who isn't democratically elected. He told us then that there are clear standards of what socio-economic rights are. And here my substantive is going to challenge this once again. What are these clear standards? He said, healthcare. Okay, are vaccinations against HIV/AIDS, for instance, if such a vaccination was ever developed, a basic need? Is chemotherapy a basic need? Are all these advanced medical practices that extend your life also basic needs? Their side doesn't have a clear definition whatsoever, because these are fundamentally contentious issues. No thank you, both of you. So the fundamental problem here is that different interest groups can place the definition of socio-economic rights in contention, and this is harmful. First, we're going to address the argument about corporations and private businesses in this substantive. Because in the United States of America, corporations are people too, by legal definition. That allows corporations all of the protections of socio-economic rights their side argues for, giving them immense privileges and powers. Secondly, even if they weren't, no thank you. We think that these corporations are going to form powerful lobby groups that give them phenomenal power over these socio-economic rights. They talk about the pharmaceutical industry, and we're going to argue that the pharmaceutical lobby is already massive. No thank you, madam. So for these reasons, we think these lobby groups are simply going to distort public policy. The second harm is that it disproportionately benefits the rich, because the rich have financial resources to wage sustained legal conflicts with the state. They use this to gain an advantage in redefining socio-economic rights in their favor. We saw this happen in Nigeria, where the state was initially spending large quantities on guaranteeing safer streets for lower income groups. Higher income environmentalists challenged this, forcing the state to allocate fewer resources to guaranteeing safer streets and more resources to the environment. That's how the rich disproportionately benefit. We think that's fundamentally unfair to the poor, undermining their own principle. Last harm, it drains state resources, because states already strive to better the lives of people with the limited resources it has. But this is expensive. It's expensive to spend on fundamental healthcare. Their policy forces states to wage extensive legal battles with various corporations and individuals over the definition of socio-economic rights. These legal suits are expensive, that takes away from the state's ability to spend directly on helping people. We saw this happen in South Africa, where the state was forced to deal with multiple lawsuits about housing rights. You're out of order, madam. And this took away from the state's resources to actually spend on housing. The number of homeless has actually risen in South Africa by 600,000. That's 600,000 more people who could have been given a home. For all these reasons, our side stands for democratic principles, our side stands for the poor and for minorities, our side stands in opposition